Alright guys, welcome to Facebook Live. You better go get Mama and tell her to get in here. Time to start. Guess who we got here tonight? Tonight we have our regional director from Greater San Diego area. That's right, Chris Bergman. Oh, listen to that. They like you.
Yes, they do.
They think you're awesome.
I can hear
Oh, that's cool. Stop. All right, Chris.
I'm great. How are you, Marty?
That's so natural, isn't it? You just
Right?
Man, this has got to go back under the guides of what's some of those old timey guys, Soupy Sales, and some of those other cornballs that were on TV in the early days. Who we got here? Let's see. Health Fighters are here. Don Wiseman's here. Lorene Coulter. Good to see you guys. Once again, this is my friend. This is Chris Bergman, Big Chris. He is our regional director from the Greater San Diego area.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me tonight.
Oh, absolutely. For those of you that don't know us, a regional director oversees a multiple group of chapters, and Greater San Diego is 3 groups that we have in San Diego, as well as Temecula to the north and Lake Elsinore to the north of there.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell these guys a little bit about yourself.
So, for those of you that don't know me, they call me Big Chris. I was the Temecula president for the last 2.5 years. I've been around motorcycle ministry for a little while. I'll back up some. So I'm married. I have a beautiful wife, Brooke Bergman. We have 2 wonderful kids, Tristan and Jade. They're both fantastic. I don't know how I got so lucky. They say that you always get what you've done to your parents in tenfold, and I'm not getting that.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So I've definitely been able to not have that. So that's fantastic. Just like everybody else out there, I shouldn't say everybody, but most people out there, we were, knuckleheads, and we were, that person that was out there before coming to Christ or coming back to Christ.
Yeah.
And you know what, I, was with, different people, and I ran and I hung out with, MC, and I had that part of my life. Mm-hmm. And this whole time I had done this stuff, I was with my wife. We were married.
Wow. That's hard on a wife.
It's hard. It's really hard on a wife. I was never a full patch member. I never did that. And I believe that is because, at the time, we weren't, it wasn't, the Lord wasn't in our lives,
Sure.
But my wife, it was one of those things, that they did, come over to my house. We did have parties, and we hung out, and if that was something I did, she was always, lets me know that she would be gone. And because she didn't want that in her life.
Sure. And most of these guys, including myself, have pre-Christian stories.
Right.
BC stories. I mean, up until the age of 4, I was a hellraiser.
Right.
Yeah. Until the age of 4. I did. I gave my heart to Jesus at 5. So what can I say? I mean, but that doesn't mean I didn't stray a bit when I was a teenager.
Right.
So we've all got those stories. Yeah.
Oh, most definitely. We all do.
Yeah.
And for us, I grew up as Catholic. I was an altar boy. I did all of that. And
does that look like an altar boy to you? I don't think so. Right. How come it's got dark all of a sudden? You get kind of dark on us.
There it is.
There we go.
I was an altar boy. We went to church, every Sunday, because we had to. We were, that's just what we did. My grandmother did it. My mom, she had us do it. And as we got older, we grew away from it. And we walked away from it. And for myself, I went out and, I pretty much, wasn't a Satanist, and I didn't, go out and worship the devil. But I was on a path of this is where he's taking me, and I was all about it, in and out of jail and the whole 9 yards.
I love it. The guys we talk to at the big rallies, and they go, "Well, I never killed anybody." Like that's the standard. That's the
right.
That's the measuring rod.
Exactly, and people, they say that. They say, "Well, I haven't killed nobody," or
Yeah, there was that one.
Yeah, or it may be, or what? I couldn't go to a church; it would fall.
Yeah,
and
sin is sin, right?
Exactly, no matter what it is. From lying to killing.
So how did you find your way back, or maybe it wasn't back? How did you find Christ, or how did Christ find you?
So we had. I was working at a motorcycle shop with a great friend of mine. We had some guys that came in on they were riding their bikes. They were in motorcycle ministry, and they came in. We were always working on their bikes. They were always talking to me and stuff like that. We ended up closing the shop down. They still came to my house. These two guys still came to my house. I get choked up.
That's right. That's right.
But they still came to my house. They talked to me. They always invited me to stuff, and I was like, no. And I was still me. I did what I did. I spoke the way I did. I'll never forget.
See these hearts and thumbs up?
Right.
That's people saying cool.
Yeah.
What you're saying.
So, one of the guys, this guy Marvin, he was a pastor at the time, and he's, I talked the way that I did. I was very foul-mouthed, and I was not good. And my wife told me after he left one time, she says, "You talk like that even though that he's a pastor?" And I said, "Oh, Marvin knows who I am. He's okay with that." And he was okay. He was okay with where I was.
That's cool. Patient with you.
Yes.
Grace.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And as the Bible says, that to be patient with the stubborn. And he was. He was very patient.
Cool.
One day he asked me, he says, "Hey," "our church is doing a Halloween, what is it called? Trunk or treat."
Trunk or treat, yeah.
Yeah, so he says, "They're doing a trunk or treat. Why don't you come on out? You and your family, it's all family oriented." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I asked, my wife Brooke, and I said, "Marvin's inviting us to this, let's go. Check it out." So we went over there, handed out candy. And then that's where I actually ended up meeting Jeff Lennington, who did ILS, not this year, but last year. I met him that night there. It was a Saturday night. Next day was church. And, he didn't say, "Hey, you should come and check us out." He didn't say anything like that. Nobody did. We got home. I told Brooke, "We should go to that church and check it out." And that's where it started.
Okay, I want you to know something. You just changed me. Because people tell me about this trunk or treat thing, and I'm like, "What? Really? And you're here now. You're living proof that was a cool thing to do.
It definitely. You know what? I really enjoyed it, and that was the moment. There, is what started. I'm not going to say that's what what saved us, because it's not. But that's what started.
That was a spark.
Our family's journey.
Yeah, and we can be very critical about what our group or what some other group is doing, and like me, God forgive me, they do trunk or treat at my church, and I'm like, that's kind of goofy, But here's proof that I'm wrong.
Yeah, goofy things do work.
Here I am. No, I mean, you look at a church and they're doing, they're showing a movie, and you're going, they're doing a bluegrass festival. That's cornball. And we should never, those people are doing what they think. People look at us and think we're goofy for riding motorcycles to have an influence on other bikers.
Right.
So, God forgive me, I'm confessing to everybody here. That's very cool, Chris. So, what happened after? Did you went to church the next day?
Yes, we went to church the next day, and then from there, that's when God started, He started changing our lives. Of course, just like anybody else, it doesn't happen overnight. And, we were stubborn about it at some point. And then my wife and I.
Both, her too?
Yes, I think more me. But, and
Let's
then
get her in on that.
exactly, yes.
Lord, the woman that you gave me.
Right. And you know, we ended up going on track, and you know, with the help of motorcycle ministry, and you know, the people that ended up being in our lives, you know, at that time, and continue to be in our lives. That what helped, we were around those people and seen what they had, and maybe we didn't say out loud, I want what you have, but in our hearts, that's what we wanted. And I can probably almost guarantee that's what my wife wanted. And she'll tell you, I'm always a baby.
That's right. That's right.
But she'll tell you that, before Christ, she hardly ever would see me cry. Maybe at my grandfather's funeral. Now, I'm a baby.
Yeah.
But it's that thing, he changes your heart.
That's right.
And
softens our hearts.
exactly.
You bet.
Take that heart of stone, replace it with a heart of flesh that beats for him.
Yeah.
And that's what he's done with me. And I went from this guy that was, I didn't cry, I didn't show emotion besides, being that heathen.
Yeah.
And I was quick to anger, extremely fast. And I was a mean person, and I wasn't very nice to be around.
How soon? I mean, did you at some critical point, raise your hand or go forward or have somebody pray for you? Did you make some kind of a decision? Was there a? I can't remember the date that I would say. That drives me crazy when
Right,
people
I
say
can't either,
at 7:15 p.m. I was at my. But I remember when I surrendered my heart to Christ. Was there a time, or was it a real subtle change?
I think it was a subtle change, but I do know that, through our trials, because my wife and I, we haven't always had, that perfect relationship
Sure.
due to me.
Yeah.
And, when I confessed stuff to her, and that was as I was, we were going to church and being, convicted and stuff that was going on, I wasn't 100% on board. And during these times, it changed me a lot, and it opened my eyes. And after that, and us being able to work through what we went through, our lives, our marriage, so much better. And definitely not saying go out and do something knuckleish like that, but for us, I know it wasn't just her and I that had fixed that. It's because of God, and that's what grew our relationship. When we got married, we weren't, neither one of us were going to church.
Yeah.
And I know it's because of God is why we grew, so close in our relationship.
Yeah.
Is so close now because she's, not just my wife. I mean, just like like with you with Debbie, it's. That's your best friend. That's who you're going to spend eternity with. Yeah.
And that's another teachable moment for those of us in motorcycle ministry is that, Chris said, I just started spending time with some of these Christian bikers and just kind of watching and just kind of listening. Very important what we're talking about, how we're treating each other during those times. And then when you did start to move into wanting to serve Christ, the bike, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounded like you said, and the motorcycle ministry was a natural place for me to go. Is that?
Yes,
okay.
It definitely was, and I was invited to that, to hang out with them and to do things with them.
Yeah.
And and eventually, I rode with them.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And
Great.
I had a strong calling that's what God was calling me for.
Great yes. testimony. Great testimony towards teachable moment for all of us that are listening. Now, so then that was kind of up in the high desert, and you moved down the valley here?
Yes.
Okay.
So we moved, and when we did move down here, it was because of a job.
Yeah.
How everybody, you got to move around sometimes for jobs.
Sure.
And we ended up moving down here, and I was looking, I was going to get, out of, motorcycle ministry just due to different things that were going on.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to get rid of things, and I worked toward that, of getting rid of a lot of things. When I moved down here, I had, my bike, and I wasn't really interested in doing a whole lot of that at the time. I was, showing my kids that, hey, you don't need to have a bike to do ministry.
Yeah.
That you can
Yeah.
still, you can still love God and be
Sure.
able to do
Sure.
His work without that. Well,
Yeah.
God had different plans for me.
Yeah.
When we moved down here, my good friend Dan Farringcamp.
Dan Farringcamp, yeah.
Yeah, so we went to the same church together. He was actually my son's first teacher at school.
Wow.
He met my son before he met me. He met me, like Tristan pointed me out. He said, "Whoa, that's your dad."
I think we all reacted that way to you.
Right? Yeah. And but he lived down here. He ended up introducing me to Mo. Jeff.
Jeff, yeah, Jeff Him.
Yeah, Jeff Him, and he used to do his man cave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
I remember when you started showing up.
Yeah, and I showed up, and I was, I didn't, I wasn't riding my own bike over there. I wasn't doing stuff there.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really even working on bikes then. And I just, slowly, I think God was revealing to me that, hey, you're not done in this field.
Right.
I still need you here. And, and I believe I hung out with Black Sheep and with those guys for about a year and a half, almost 2 years before I even started mentoring.
Yeah.
And then that's when.
And Dan Farringcamp was your mentor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dan Farringcamp was my mentor, and he did myself and Brooke, my wife, we both mentored at the same time. And when she went into it, just due to events that had happened before, she wasn't too sure, but she was just going to do the mentorship just to see how it was. And she wasn't going to originally do, become a Black Sheep member. And after mentoring, she decided that she was going to do it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So, Chris and I were talking the other day, and of course, being a new regional director, we talk a fair bit. And we started, we were discussing some issues, ongoing issues that we have in motorcycle ministry. I'm going to sit up because it makes you look so much bigger than me. I'm comfortable with that. And we started talking about the vests we wear, the cut, and because of I came into motorcycle ministry a greenhorn, a yuppie, a golf playing pastor. And I had to learn everything the hard way. You came into Black Sheep kind of having been around the clubs and seeing them and hearing them and knowing what values are. And a lot, I'd say probably at least half of our members come into Black Sheep with absolutely no real understanding of the culture that we're a part of. And it is a subculture of people. As much as any subculture in any other country or culture, we have our own music, we have our own food, you have your own values. There's things you do. There's holy places, like Sturgis and Laconia, and these are the points that sociologists identify a culture. How is that culture in South America different from that culture in South? Well, they have a different set of mores and a different set of values. They have different music. They have different gods. That's how they identify them. Right. And all of those bullet points in sociology identifying a mission field, I learned in school, were directly applicable to motorcycle ministry. And a missionary going to a foreign country studies that culture to appreciate, not necessarily to agree with, but to appreciate that culture's values and such, so that they can better communicate. That's Paul saying, "Be all things to all men."
Right.
Okay. So Chris and I were talking about this, and we started talking about the cut and about the vest. And you're passionate about that. You're passionate about some positively and negatively with some of the things you've seen about the cut.
Yes, most definitely.
Yeah.
And that goes back to when I first became a Black Sheep. The way that our cut was, how different people's cuts were, and then
how were they back then?
They were a mess, honestly. Everybody they just had different things on there. They had different patches on there that shouldn't be there in my eyes, and I think in the motorcycle world's eyes. I shouldn't say world, but in that culture's eyes. And then, with you and multiple other people that had, changed the way that our cut looks, and to have, uniform cuts. I thought that was the greatest thing, for our ministry. And I know and I understood that we were going to lose people as that came about. But like my wife and I, we talked about it. Several people have talked about it. If they were there and they left because you changed the way that we had to wear our cuts.
Wear our uniform?
Yep, exactly, wear our uniform. And, if they left because of that, they weren't here because of, God calling them.
Yeah.
They were here because of some patch that was on them, because they thought that was a cool thing, and that was, oh, I'm wearing, a patch.
Yeah. You know how serious that is? We knew going in that we were going to lose some people because of changing our vest.
Yeah.
And yet it was really clear to anybody that would listen that there were things that we were doing that in the culture that we were dealing with were just wrong. I mean, you had people that just had so many patches on, and they had other decorations on their vest, and they were laying their vest down on the ground while they put on their boots, and they were doing all kinds of goofy things. And when we came down hard and said, guys, we cannot do this if we want to be effective at the ministry we're doing, we lost somewhere between 40 and 50 people over that.
Yeah.
And, I say there's two kinds of people that leave this ministry or any ministry, and it's those who left for a good reason and those who left for a stupid reason. And if you're watching tonight, I don't mean to offend you, but to leave a ministry that you feel like God had called you to because you could no longer wear your Hello Kitty patch, on your shoulder, or your 15 military patches or whatever, is just goofy.
Yes.
If God has truly called you to it.
Correct.
Let's talk. Okay, so we had some goofy vests and some goofy. Everybody could kind of do what they want, and the way that came about was I picked 100 leaders in Black Sheep, president, chapter presidents, regional directors, board members, and then a lot of ex-presidents and ex-board members, stuff like that. People that were solid in this ministry, and I made a list of about, I don't know, probably 100 things that we could or might not choose to put on our vest. And I asked them, what would you say we absolutely have to have on our vest? Obviously a front and back Black Sheep patch. And then, should we have a state place or a chapter place or a name place? And then I said, what are the things that we should absolutely not have on our vest? And they decided on that, and they kind of voted on that, and then we whittled it down, and we came back and we did it again, and then we came back and we whittled it down, and then we came back with 3 options that I gave them. We can do an absolute uniform, we can let them do whatever the heck they want, or we can do a modified uniform where they have some options, and that's what we ended up with. But even so, if you look in the bylaws and you see what we can and can't do on our vest, you feel like we're okay, or would you like to have seen us go to a uniform that said, nope, this is it, you get this, this, and this, and this, this, and this, nothing else?
I think the way that we're doing it right now, I think it's good. Just because everything that we have right now, whether we are, a hog member, which, most Black Sheep are hog members, but we do have the American V-Twin group now as well. So I think, if you are part of that and you are doing that, especially in, American V-Twin, that whole thing is all new for us, and to even get into that. So I think it's important for those guys to wear that, on their right side, to have, that organization that they are supporting, whether it's, Indian, their victories, but their American V-Twin part.
Yeah.
I think it's important for them to put that there and to show that. Not go crazy with it.
Right.
Not put a whole bunch of stuff there.
Yeah.
But to show their support for what they
Well,
are.
we say you can put that there, and you can have up to
Right.
three pins,
Yeah.
and you can have up to 3 pins over here, and then down in the front you got a small section where you can put up to 3 patches, as long as they stay from the front to the side. They can't go around the back. And then you also have the option of wearing an American flag or not wearing an American flag. And you also have the option of wearing a, what do they call that, a monochrome, kind of a camouflage flag, or the red, white, and blue.
Yeah.
So we gave them some options, and I'll go on record, okay? I thought you were going to join me on this, but that's okay. We're not practicing all of this. So I was one of the few who, out of the 3 choices, said uniform.
Right.
Uniform, baby. A janitor doesn't get to put any extra pins on his vest, on his uniform.
Right.
And I was voted down. So just for those of you who think that Marty calls all the shots and gets his way all the time, I didn't.
Right.
I was one of, I think, 5 or 6 that said, yeah, uniform, baby. That's,
Right.
And the overwhelming majority, nobody wanted to go back to the other way, but they wanted to do what we have now, which is a uniform with some extra options that you can do.
Right. Yeah. And which is good to have it that way. I think, because majority of black sheep, they do have it uniform. Where it's all one
Pretty
way.
close. Pretty close.
And we do have some that aren't there, but I know people are still trying to make sure they're on board and doing that correctly.
Oh, they aren't. I was at ILS.
Right.
I was in Red River. I was someplace before that, and there's still people that are not in compliance. If you don't know if you're compliant, get out your bylaws and look at it. My mother used to say, "Do I have to draw you a picture?"
Right.
I drew you a picture. And I said, here's the front of a patch, here's the front of a vest, here's the back of a vest. This is what the guidelines are. And there's still people that have their Jesus is Lord patch separated from the black sheep patch.
Right.
Why is that such a big deal?
That one that's
does that one bother you?
Yeah,
I can see those beads of sweat
right,
coming out.
It's a huge deal because that puts us, that's a rocker.
That Jesus is Lord is a rocker.
Exactly. As soon as you separate that from our patch, that becomes a rocker. Now it's a 2-piece. Okay, we don't want to be, recognized as a 2-piece patch.
Right.
We don't want that. That's,
because there's expectations that go with that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more expectations that go with that. So we should never ever separate that at all. That
Okay,
should
so
be there.
if that's you,
on there.
if you wear a Jesus is Lord patch, we'll talk more about that in a minute. It must touch. It must be up against the black sheep patch on the bottom. If you're separated, you will be called on it, and not necessarily by black sheep. There are club members that will pull you over and say, that's got to change. So do it now. Save yourself the trouble. Save yourself the embarrassment.
Most definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because they're going to, if one of them, for whatever reason, you upset them for whatever reason it is, it can be, a lot more than just you need to move that or you need to remove it. I mean, you can get, a beating. It depends on what their mood is at that time or what's going on. You never know. You don't know what's going on with them. They can hand you a knife and make you
take it off right there.
Take it off right there.
Yeah.
If they don't like something, they'll tell you to take it off, or something bad can happen.
Yeah.
Especially if you don't want to listen to them.
And when he said you could get a beating, he was channeling my dad, and I began to get cold and sweaty all over.
Right. Yeah. And it sucks that is the way, but it is.
It's the culture we live in.
That is exactly. That is the culture we live in. And when we threw that on, we throw that cut on, we joined their sandbox.
Okay, so this is why we're coming together tonight, and this is why I sent out some teasers this afternoon and said, please watch tonight, because this is very important. Members, can I ask you to do me a favor? Make sure your chapters watch this. Regional directors, and I know that Dave Finney, that's a Denny.
Right.
Dave Finney is now in charge of overseeing our area contacts and our regional directors. If you regional directors could get this Facebook Live program, copy the link and get it out to all your members. Dave, get it out to all the regional directors. We got to get this right. We got to get this right. And Chris and I were talking about it. We said, hey, let's do a Facebook Live on this.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we got off a little bit on his testimony, because I'm glad I got to hear that. But let me ask you some specific questions about the patch. So you care an awful lot about our cut.
Yes.
And it pains you when you see people doing certain things.
Yes, it does.
Do you talk to them?
In some cases I do. In other cases, I won't embarrass them in front of their people or their peers there. But I will mention it to maybe to one of their presidents or their regional or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
When should I wear my cut?
Anytime you decide to throw a leg over a bike, you better have that thing on.
Yeah. What if it's 110 degrees out?
Yeah, well, sad to say, but it sucks for you. I mean,
Yeah.
you have to.
You chose to live here.
Yeah, you know, and if you decided that morning that you're getting on your bike and you're going somewhere and
Yeah.
you're doing something, that cut should stay on you
Yeah.
that whole day. You shouldn't take it off. You shouldn't, if it's, oh, it's too hot.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to fold it up. I'm going to put it in my bag because I'm too hot. You should not do that.
Now, and I'm playing devil's advocate here because I agree. Chris and I have talked, and I agree with all this stuff. But I'm going to play devil's advocate. So what? So what if I take off from Southern California up to the high desert, and when I get up there it's 110? What does it matter if I take off my cut and do the proper thing, which is to fold it inside out, fold it in a quarter, and put it in my bag or my tour box? What's so bad about that?
So I would say, imagine if you were doing that, you didn't realize that across the street that there was, you know, MC, 1% or anybody, somebody watching you do that.
Somebody from the culture.
Somebody from, yeah, exactly.
And
Somebody from
watching you do
that culture, and they see you do that. They see you disrespect it. Okay, now they're looking at you for one because you have a patch on, and then they realize that you're a Christian motorcycle ministry, so they're looking at you even closer now because of course they look at us like that you know we say that you know we're Christians. They want to see they want to see us you know stumble and mess up you know because oh you guys are doing this you know so you do something like that. They just seen that. Now they're looking at us already as oh they're just Christians.
They're just Christians.
They couldn't make it in the real motorcycle world.
Yeah.
And then you disrespect your patch by doing that, by putting it in the back, because in their culture, they do that, they would get a serious beating for it. There's you put that on, you wear it the whole time, no matter how hot it is.
Okay.
You wear that thing.
So you know you can get yourself a lighter vest. I have two vests. I have one vest that's you know, the Sons of Anarchy, Nehru cut. It's real thick and it's lined. It's hotter than blazes. It's
Right.
great. It's great on a cold day. But then I have a light denim vest with no lining in it. And it's very cool.
Right.
But you can't do that, guys. I mean, you're really casting a bad name on Black Sheep and on Christians by doing it. Now, here's what you're going to say. You're going to say, I'm not a part of the motorcycle. I'm not a part of. What do I care what those thugs think? You know, I mean, who cares?
Yeah, and you hear that. I mean, I've heard that. You've heard that. We've all heard that. You know, when you do have that passion, you know, for our ministry, that you're going to hear stuff like that if you mention it to somebody. But you know what? The minute that you decided you were going to throw that cut on, and you put a patch on there, regardless of what that patch is, you put it on there. You just joined in their culture.
Yeah.
You're playing in their sandbox, whether you like it or not, and you're going to live and you're going to operate the way they like to see it, because it could turn out bad for you.
And not just not my own danger, but I know that our primary ministry is hog. It's interesting. You know, we got those circles that talk about hog and other biker ministry.
Right.
Everybody who's wants to do hog talks about us being all hog, and everybody that wants to do other biker ministry kind of focuses on the 40%. But the truth is, 90% of our ministry is to bikers.
Yes.
Some are hog members, some are club members. And it should matter to us how we act, what we do in the motorcycle culture, because those are the people we're trying to reach. In other words, if they wanted me to wear a red cowboy hat, I'd go buy a red cowboy hat.
Right.
It's not a moral issue. Now, if they want me to, you know, go into a topless bar and throw some whiskeys down with them, I'm not going to do that. There's a moral barrier there. But a red cowboy hat, or wearing your patch, or you know, folding or dragging it behind your bike, I mean, those are things that we can suffer and do for the sake of the gospel going forward to them.
Yes. Yep. If that's gonna, because if they see us doing something ridiculous like that, like throwing our cut in there because it's too hot, and then going in to you know wherever you guys are hanging out at, you know what, you just lost you know that respect from them. You're not going to be able to witness to those people.
Okay, so I just pulled into the AM/PM up there on Highway 15 and turn off to Reno, and I stop there and I get my Slurpee. And can I have a Slurpee when I'm hanging around with bikers?
Most definitely.
Kind of gay, but
That's all right.
it's cold. It's not
I will
like
drink it too.
It's not strawberry or anything. And I got on my heavy coat because it was foggy when I left, and I got on my cut. I want to take my coat off. That's cool. Okay, how do I do that?
So
Let me say. So I could take it off. I've seen guys lay the cut down on the ground and take their coat off. I've seen them hanging on their handlebars. I've seen them give it to someone else to hold. What's acceptable and not acceptable in the club world?
So if you're okay, let's say if you have another patch holder there with you, and you want to take it off, and that other patch holder is right there with you, you ask them, you take your cut off, turn it inside out, ask them to hold it. They'll hold it. You pull off your jacket, sweatshirt, whatever you're doing, put it back on. Now let's say you're somewhere and you don't have a patch holder next to you. You don't hand it to somebody that's not a patch holder and have them hold it. You would take your cut off. So this is what I do. Take it off, fold it inside out. I lean it up against my bike, and I lean up against my cut. I'll pull my sweatshirt off. And so if it's something like a hoodie or something like that, I'll pull it off, put it on my bike, throw my cut back on, and then put my jacket.
What about if it's your wife and she's not patched?
No, she's still not a patch holder, so you shouldn't be doing that.
Okay, now it's funny. I can hear people talking in their living rooms
through
my iPad.
Yes.
I can hear you. I feel like romper room. I see Billy and Freddie and Sam. I know that doesn't make any sense to you. It doesn't have to make any sense to you or to me. I always tell this story because it's such a perfect example. There's nothing wrong with whistling. But when my wife was a child in New Guinea, she was forbidden to whistle because in that culture, whistling was conjuring up demons.
Right.
Now she knew that wasn't demons. Her parents knew that, but she stopped doing it because the family knew you've got to connect where you can connect.
Yeah.
So your wife shouldn't, if she's not patched, your best buddy you're riding with who's not a black sheep member should not hold your cut while you're changing out.
No.
Goofy, I know, but that's the way it is. That's the culture we live in.
It is, and it goes back to that thing. You don't ever know who's going to be watching you.
Right. So get in the habit.
Exactly. Be in that habit. We went on a ride this last Memorial. We got invited somewhere. We went there. I had a hoodie on because it was cold in the morning. As we were waiting, the sun came out. I didn't have another patch holder near me. I pulled my cut off, leaned it up against my bike inside out. I leaned up against it, pulled my sweatshirt off, did it the way that I do. I put it back on. Another patch holder from somebody else that was there also with their club came up, introduced themselves, and he shook my hand. He told me, he says, I seen what you did, and I appreciate that.
Wow.
You never know.
Yeah.
Ever.
So you're by yourself. The most natural thing in the world to do would be so you're going to change out of your heavy coat, take your cut off, hang it on your handlebars. No?
No. So like with your, you're wearing your leather, like your leather coat or something like that.
Yeah.
What you should do, you pull it off, pull your one sleeve out, put your cut back over that sleeve, then finish pulling your jacket off and put your cut back on, and then continue to put your
or do that
stuff
lean up
away.
against the bike thing that you talked about.
Exactly.
I've seen our guys lay their cut on the ground.
No. Oh no. I hope I never ever see that.
Yeah.
That's a huge disrespect.
I'll warn you guys. I've done this before, and it's kind of fun. It's kind of sad, but it's kind of fun. If I see your cut on the back of a chair or hanging on your handlebars, I just go get it. And I give it back, But boy, I tell you, those guys are sweating.
Exactly.
Does the club world? I've heard rumors that they will sometimes they'll actually collect patches from other clubs to do that kind of thing. You heard anything like that?
Yeah, I've heard about that. Yeah. Especially because a lot of those guys, these are MCs, and they're there. They do what they do because that's they feel that's what their heart.
Yeah.
That's where they're at,
Yeah.
and that's what they're going to do, and they look at what we're doing. Like I said earlier, that we're just Christians, or we're just whatever. You can put whatever you want behind that. That's what they look at, and it would be a joke to them. And when we disrespect it like that, and they see that, that's their opportunity to show, hey, this guy did this.
Yeah. So, what if we have some pretty legitimate reasons sometimes. We're pulling a tag trailer or a rescue trailer or a trailer full of black sheep stuff, or you're a chase car. I'm a black sheep patch member, but I've got to drive. And I know you don't ever wear your cut in the car. Ever. But what if you're driving to an event? What do you do?
what you do is you take your cut, fold it inside out, and put that in your vehicle. Don't hang it on a coat hanger and hang it in your vehicle.
Oh.
Don't,
I've done that.
yeah, so you don't do that because now you have your cut showing out of a window. It's not a car ministry. It's not a truck ministry.
Not a car ministry.
It's a motorcycle ministry.
Fold it up, fold it inside out, fold it in half, lay it in the back seat.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we have a policy in Black Sheep that, because we have a very wide spectrum of Christians, and we don't have a no alcohol policy in Black Sheep.
Right.
You want to go home and have beer. You want to go home or go out with your wife and have a glass of wine. That's between you and God. That's whatever your church or your faith is. But we do have a policy. We never, ever, 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 ever have any kind of alcohol with our cut on.
Correct. Yeah.
So I can't go into a bar with my cut on?
Oh, no. Go into
Okay. What?
go into a bar with your cut on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not drink.
But yeah, don't throw one back. Don't go in there to go and drink.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you don't, just because it's a bar.
Yeah.
And let's say you rode to that bar.
Yeah.
Let's say you're riding with some hog members or
Yeah.
whoever. Their destination was a bar.
Mhm.
You don't take your cut off, throw it inside out, and put it in there, even though that you're not going to drink when you go in there.
Yeah.
But you don't take your cut off and put it in your bags and go in to the bar. Keep your cut on. Go to where the people are.
Yeah, we got. I mean, Jesus was in some pretty rough places. He was at one party where a prostitute came in and started washing his feet. Yeah, I've been waiting for that, but I've never had anybody come in and wash my feet. So in Sturgis, you eat where you can get a seat.
Right.
It's just crowded, and almost everything there's a bar. So we'll go in our cuts and we'll sit down. We'll order a burger and we'll order a Pepsi and we'll do that. But of course, we would never go in and sit at the bar and slam down a brewski.
Right.
So here's how some of our members got around this years ago. They would ride into town, pull up, and park their bikes, take off their cut, put it in their saddlebags, and then go in and slam down some brewskis.
Yeah.
They weren't wearing the cut.
Right. Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
Goes back to the whole thing. Who's watching you?
Who's watching you?
Yeah. We don't know who's that bartender. Who are they married to? Who's their brother? Who's their sister?
Yeah.
Their dad.
Oh, you know what?
You
Yes, yes. You're sitting in a booth and you're talking about this club or that club or how dumb these people are, whatever. And that little old lady waitress is some club member's grandmother
Yeah, exactly.
who goes back and says, I'd never heard of these guys called Black Sheep before, but boy, were they talking about you.
Yeah, exactly. You never know who's what because, there's guys in there that are, they're 1%ers.
Yeah,
But if they didn't have their cut on, you would never know it.
that's right.
You would.
Oh,
never,
yeah,
ever
clean
know.
cut.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay. All right. So we have a restaurant in Lake Elsinore that has a sign on the door that says no colors allowed. Now, depending on who you talk to, our patch is not colors. Now I disagree. I mean, I don't think they are colors, but I do disagree with the club world where they say because our patches are earned and yours are bought.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said to them before, I said, no, our patches are not bought. And that's why when you leave this ministry, they come back to us because you never buy them. There's an administrative fee for getting that stuff together and shipping it to you, and it costs us to make them and that kind of thing.
Right.
But your patches are earned through the mentorship process.
Yes.
Nevertheless, when I saw this sign that said no, I just chose not to go in.
Yeah.
I could have gone in and argued that, hey, I'm a Christian guy.
Right.
What's wrong with that?
You could have, and people do that.
Yeah.
You know what? And if it does say no colors allowed, and for the most part, they are talking about the
Any patch.
Yeah, any patch that's there, and they've gotten bad taste from different things that could have happened in that world. Even if they say, oh wait, no, they seen you out there. No, it's okay for you to come in. You shouldn't go in. If it says no colors, you should not go in. And don't, turn your cut inside out and fold it up and walk in. Respect, the other patch people that are out there from the motorcycle world. Again, back that, you don't know if somebody's watching you. respect them and just go ahead and go somewhere else.
But can't they look at people like you and me and just know that we're good Christian people?
Right. No. They just look at me. It usually scares the heck out of them.
you just get out of here, right?
Yeah.
All right. What if you're riding someplace and maybe you're we get our patches approved when we go to a new area. Which, by the way, let's talk about that first. There's one place in the country today that we've been told not to wear a cut. And if you want to know, you can call me. Because I don't want to embarrass the person that kind of messed this up for us. We tell all of our area contacts and all of our new chapters before, everybody say before you put that cut on in your state or your county or your city if it's a big city, find out who the COC is, Confederation of Clubs, or the predominant ministry club, and go to them and get permission. We'll talk about this later. You can call us and we'll tell you how to do that. But one individual, either out of ignorance or either out of, I think, Christianese, just not recognizing it as being that important,
Right.
was riding around his area with his cut, and the club members were chasing him, trying to find him, but he didn't know it.
Right.
They called us and said, by the way, you are not welcome in this state. And until we can straighten that out, there's 1 out of 49 states that we're not welcomed in. So you're riding through a state that you're not familiar with, or it's your home state where we are approved, and you get flagged down by some club members. What do?
Well, first of all, if you're going to want to pull over, hear what they have to say.
And duke it out with them.
Well, it probably wouldn't be a smart idea.
Not a good idea.
No, not at all. I don't care how big you are or how tough you think you are. It's not a good idea.
Even if you win that fight, boy, it's gonna blow back on all of us.
Exactly, yeah, because it's that ripple effect, and that's one thing we have to remember in our ministry, in doing motorcycle ministry. It is a ripple effect of what we do here is going to affect what happens everywhere.
The state we're not allowed to be in is in the Midwest. They called California to say you're not welcome here.
Yeah.
They got an internet just like we do.
Exactly, yeah.
So found out where headquarters was.
Exactly. We have to be careful of what we do and how we do it. So let's say one of those guys, they come up on you and they're not happy with something that you did or something, maybe your cut that day just doesn't please them, and you're in their area and they tell you, you better take that thing off or else, to us, this is our cut. This is a tool that God has given us to be able to reach others. If we're going to sit there and duke it out with this guy, okay, so now here we are, we're not respecting what God has given us and we're not good stewards of it. If that guy asks you to take off your cut because it's making him mad or else, take your cut off, fold it inside out, put it in your bag. Shake his hand if he'll shake your hand, tell him have a good day and leave.
Yeah.
That simple.
It sounds like weakness, but it's actually strength. Being a hothead, being a tough guy is really, in a lot of times, a weaker position.
Most definitely.
To my knowledge, we've only had one time in 20 years where a person of ours was pulled over and said, take off your cut, and they did. Yeah. And the guy smiled and said, wow, I read that you would do that, but I didn't think you would. And shook his hand and gave it back to him and said, see you later.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's that whole thing. They're going to test you. They're going to watch you. They want to see, like this guy heard. He heard that we would do that. How did he hear that? Did he hear that from another member? Did he hear that from the internet?
Did he?
We don't know.
We know they're looking at our stuff.
Exactly. They watch us.
Yeah.
And
they've actually joined us. We've had club members join us.
And
you're not a club member, right?
No. And I heard about that.
Are you sure?
Yes.
God is watching.
Yes. God is my witness. But when I did hear that, about that happening and what the reasoning was behind it, you know what? When they did join us, and afterwards, after it was revealed, they did it to want to see if we were the real deal.
And we were.
And they found out that we were.
Thank God they picked that chapter.
Most definitely.
Yeah. And we have a great relationship with the clubs because of that.
Exactly. It's fantastic because they wanted to check and see if we were the real deal, if what we said we're doing, is motorcycle ministry. is that what these guys are really doing, or is there something behind the scene? They found out that no, we're just there to serve the Lord.
Well, my understanding is that, and I've read enough of their books, their autobiographies, that the government agencies, ATF and such, have actually used Christian patches to get in and to get close. And that's why, I went to a hospital visit here not too long ago. Walked in by myself, and there were some club members. I didn't know who was down. I just was told there was a biker down, and I went. And there was a group of club members around the door, and they said, "Who are you?" And I told them, I said, "Marty Edwards, National President, Black Sheep. I'm a pastor. I'm here to pray for your guy." And they said, "No, you're not. Go away." And I could have taken offense at that. I was a little taken back, but I didn't take offense. I was just kind of shocked. And I was told later, they weren't disrespecting your being a pastor, and they weren't disrespecting your faith. They didn't know who you were,
Right.
and they didn't want you in there for some reason. There was something private, something going on that they didn't want you to be aware of. And you just, guys, chill out, mellow out, be humble is what the word says, and just say, "God bless you guys, gotta go."
Exactly. We have to earn the right to be heard.
Yes.
And that culture,
Yeah.
sometimes it takes some time.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen just because you met them once.
Yeah.
It's going to take some time to get that relationship.
Guys, this is important stuff. This is really, really important stuff. If you're a Sunday school teacher, if you got your first Harley a month ago and this doesn't make any sense to you, that's okay. We're open to that. We're glad you're here. But you got to get on board. We're not sitting around in the office making up rules so that you have to jump through some hoops. These are things that we've learned in the last 20 years. Take this stuff seriously. Read your bylaws. Your bylaws are not a list of rules of what you can and can't do. Your bylaws are a guide to how to succeed in this ministry. One of the reasons that we say in our pledge that we will obey, we will submit to our leadership, is because our leaders, for the most part, they've been through the ranks, they've been through the mentorship, they've lived motorcycle ministry for a number of years, and they know what works and they know what doesn't work. And not every time, but way too often, somebody decides to do it their own way, and it blows back on us, and we look bad, or we're not allowed to be in a state, or we're not allowed to be in a city. Let me just close with this. I want to encourage you, if you're an area contact, listen carefully. If you're a chapter who has not gone through the steps for approval, listen carefully. Here's what you need to do. Chances are your Harley dealership may not know who the COC, the Confederation of Clubs, that's all the clubs that get together and they have a meeting usually once a month or every other month or something like that. Chances are they may not know who that is. They might, but they may not. What I suggest you do is find that independent shop. Find, Joe's Choppers.
Yeah, small little shops.
Yeah, and walk in there and say, "Hey, my name's Marty Edwards. I'm starting a chapter here in Hickory, North Carolina. I saw the Hickory guys around there a while ago. And I want to leave you my card." That's why we have cards. "I want to leave you my card. We'd like to go through the process to be able to wear our patch here in the Hickory area or whatever county that is or the state of North Carolina. Do you know who I could get a hold of?" Now, the first time I did that, they said, "No, we don't know anybody." They did. They just didn't want to admit that they knew anybody.
Right.
And I gave them my card, and a half an hour later, I had a club member call me. And I said, "Well, what do I need to do?" And they said, "There's a meeting at this place and time, and we want to see you there at 7 o'clock. Do not wear your cut into that meeting. Because what you're saying is, I've already got my own permission to do this." It's like going to the cake and cutting a piece of cake and then asking permission if I can have a piece of cake. It's very disrespectful to the bride of the wedding.
Yes, it is.
You go in and you take it with you. You carry it in, folded inside out, and folded in half. I put mine in a bag at that time, and I walked in, and then they knew I was coming, and then they said, "Who's the guy here from Black Sheep?" And I stood up, and I held up, and they said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I want to show you a new patch, and we're in X number of states, but I want to get your approval that I can wear this in this area." And I showed it to them. I turned it inside out, and guess what they said? They said, "No way." They'll almost always say no. What do? You just accept it and you leave. And I tell you what they're doing is they're testing you. They're checking you out. Now you may have to do ministry without a patch for a while. So what? Last time I read the Bible, Jesus didn't have a patch either. But you can go ahead and do your ministry, and people know you're a black sheep, and you can wear a black sheep shirt and all that kind of stuff. But in every single case, listen to me, every single case, without exception, they've come back and said, okay. Now that I've said that, I now need to take that back. There was one place that said that to this day they've not let us wear a cut there, and so we have that other place, but we don't have anybody there now. And they did ministry for a long time in their T-shirts, and then the place that we just got bumped from, which I'll tell you about if you want to call me. But with one exception, in 20 years, they've come back 3 months, 6 months later, and said, you know what, you guys are okay. Go ahead and wear your cut.
Right.
You got to
because they did their research on us.
That's right.
And that's
They're
what
saying,
it is.
slow down, pal.
Yeah.
Let me find out who you guys are. And the other thing is, Christians, here's what's really, this is why I get so frustrated when people leave this ministry or leave somebody else's ministry, because I talk to all the other presidents, and they leave the ministry to go start a new ministry.
Right.
The clubs hate that. I've been asked so many times, hey, if you Christians are so united, how come you got so many stinking clubs? You know? I asked Peter Kay one time, because on his magazine, he used to have all those patches on the back.
Right.
I said, hey, Peter, what's the size of the average Christian organization out there? He said, average? 30? I said, no, average. That means you've got clubs out there with 5 and 6 members. And he said, yeah. I'll close with this.
Yeah.
So I'm in LA, and I'm at a dealership, and I see this motorcycle ministry patch I've never seen before. I thought I'd seen them all. And I go up and I talk to this guy, and I go, hey, Marty Edwards, National President of Black Sheep, nice to meet you. And he goes, hi, Joe Schmo, National President of blank, you know. I said, oh, nice to meet you. And I said, are you guys new? And we start talking about his club, and you know, what do they do, where they've been, and then I said, oh, you're the president. He said, yeah, I'm the president. I said, oh, cool. I said, anybody else here today? He said, no. And as we began to talk, he began to seem to want to talk less and less and less. Make a long story short, he was the national president and the only member of his organization. Which makes you wonder why he didn't just go for Grand Dragon or His Imperial Highness or something, you know? We got to come together. There's a whole bunch of you that might be watching that are members of a club or a ministry of 2 and 3 members. You know, why don't you throw in with somebody else? You don't have to throw in with Black Sheep. But unless you've got something very specific you've been called to do, let's stop recreating the wheel. Let's get serious about the ministry. Now you say, well, Marty, you started the ministry. Yeah, because we were focused on Harley Owners Group. There were 21 Christian organizations in Southern California at the time, and Fred Z from Bikers for Christ said, you guys are hog members. You ought to focus on hog.
Right.
And we did it.
And if you remember, even if they are saying that, you know, you started your own ministry, you were a pastor before you even did anything else. What were you, in your 50s when you first bought your first motorcycle?
I'm not in my 50s now.
You know you go to
No, I figured this out the other night. I think I was 45 when I started.
45. So here
40,
you
43, because I'm 60, almost 63, and it's been 20 years. Yeah,
Yeah, so
43.
you were a pastor before that.
Yeah.
You got on a bike. And then, in time, God called you to do something.
Well, they just kind of took off. You know, we honestly did not mean to start a motorcycle anything until 6 months or a year after it just took off. And then that Peter Jennings thing in ABC, they put us on the news and people started calling, and
Right.
didn't even realize how big hog was at the time, and that's why it took off. But anyway, all that to say, once again, and we talk about this about every other week, is that this is serious business.
Yes.
This is people's lives are at stake. I was reading that book that Jamie talked about a couple of weeks ago, Gospel Fluency, and he said, why is it so important that we're fluent in the gospel? And I'll add to it, why is it so important that we are fluent in motorcycle culture? And then he said, because people's eternal souls depend upon it.
Yes.
That's why it's important. I'm not trying to be dramatic, or I'm not trying to pull any heartstrings. That's what's at stake here.
Exactly. And if we, if God calls us to motorcycle ministry, there's a reason why.
Yeah.
And there's people there that nobody else is going to reach. There's people there that will never ever darken the door of a church.
Yeah.
And God has called us there
Amen.
to be that light.
Well, thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Marty.
I consider you a very special brother in Christ.
As I do to you.
And I say that because you're bigger than me and I'm terrified by you.
I wouldn't hurt nobody.
He knows that's not true.